Good day everyone. Welcome back to the Azure Databricks series. In today's video, we will dive into how you can secure your Databricks workspace by restricting public internet access and enabling private endpoints for secure connectivity. We will start by showing how to grant users access to your Databricks environment. Then we will walk you through step-by-step process on how to restrict public access and configure private endpoints to ensure your Databricks environment is secure and accessible only through your internal network. If you find this video helpful, don't forget to give it a thumbs up and subscribe to the channel for more videos on Azure Databricks and cloud technologies. Let's get started. Let me launch the Databricks workspace here. Yeah, I have the Databricks workspace here. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to click on the profile here and click on settings. Yeah, and then I will go to this identity and access. Yeah, and then I will click on manage here. Yeah, so now I have these two logins. Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to add a new user called jvivek2k1 at yahoo.com, and then I will try accessing this Databricks workspace using that login. Yeah, the way that you need to provide access is you need to add them here. Before that, what we'll do is let's search for the Microsoft intra. Yeah, let's go to the Microsoft intra ID and then let's create a user. Yeah, first let's create a user. So let's click on add here, click on plus new user, and then let's click on invite external user. Yeah, let's give the required email address. I'm providing this message. Yeah, and then let's click on next properties and let's give the first name and the last name. Yeah, user type would be guest. Uh, what I'll do is I will not add them anything here. Okay, so let's click on next and then invite them. Okay, so successfully invited user. Yeah, so now what I'm going to do is I'm going to log into my email address and then see if there is an invitation. Okay, if you see here, I have the invitation here. And what I'll do is I will accept the invitation here. Yeah, because I know it is a valid one because I was the one who sent it across. Okay, the organization is this, domain is this one. Okay, so everything looks good. So let me accept the invitation here. I'll accept it. I will sign in with my required account. Okay, so I've signed in, so the invitation is accepted now. What I'll do is I will go back to my and then let's do a refresh here, and if you can see here, we have this jvivek2k1 underscore yahoo.com added to this. Now what I'll do is I have this user created, so I will go back to this user settings here. Yeah, in the Databricks workspace, let's click on new add users, and then I will select the existing user because I have created one, right? So what I'll do is I will select this guy here, which I have created. Yeah, let's click on add. Okay, so now I have added that. So now what we'll do is we will try accessing this. Yeah, I will try accessing this from the URL here. Give me 1 minute. Okay, so let's access the URL here and then see if we are able to access it. Sign in with Microsoft Intra ID. Let's use this login that we created. And then let's wait for it to complete. So I'm getting a message, you do not have permission to access this page in Workspace. Please contact your Workspace administrator to ensure you're assigned to the Workspace and have either the Workspace access or the Databricks SQL access. Okay, that is the message that we are getting. So now what I'll do is I'll go back to my Databricks workspace, and then what I'll do is I will click on this triple dot and then click on edit here. Yeah. So here what I'm going to do is I'm uh, going to allow this user to create cluster. Yeah. And also I will give him the admin access. Yeah. The message basically tells that the user needs to have at least workspace access or Databricks SQL access. Yeah, but in my case I'm going to give them admin and unrestricted cluster creation access. Yeah, so this is done. So now let's try uh, opening it again using that login. Yeah, so let's click on refresh here. Let me use the login. Still getting this error. Okay, so let's add an existing user, another user that is jvivek2k1@yahoo.com. Yeah, then let's click on add, and then again let's give the required access here, admin access, and then let's go to the identity and access, look at the groups here, and then make sure you have the required logins. Yep, we have the required logins here. So now what I'm going to do, I'm going to check that and see if I'm able to access it. Let's execute it. Getting the same error. Okay. I'm gonna give it some more time. Yeah, now I'm able to access it without any issues. Yeah, I have the access now. Now if I look at the login name, I'm able to see it is my jvivek2k1@yahoo.com. Yeah. So now what I'll do is I will go back, remove the access. Yeah. Let me remove the access and then see if I'm able to access it anymore. Delete. I will delete this one as well. Yeah, it's removed. Now let's try opening now. Let's sign in. And if you see here, I don't have access anymore. Yeah. So the way that you need to access is via this. Okay. So now what we'll do is we will add it back. Yeah. We'll add it back. And then we will look on getting this UI access, that is the workspace access via the browser. Yeah. So let me add it. Click on edit. Let's give the admin access here. Yeah. Go back to the users and then add our another access also, that is jvivek2k1, this external user. Let's click on add. So this is also added. Click on edit. admin access, everything is there. So now let's go to the groups here. So we have all the 4 logins here. Yep. Now let's try it one more time. We should be having access now. So here you go. You have the access. Now what we'll do is like, let's head back to our workspace here. Yeah. So now what I'm going to do is like, I'm going to create a VM. Yeah. And then I will try accessing this workspace from there. I'm on the VM. Yep. So this is my VM that I'm logged in. Okay. And now I'm going to get to the Databricks workspace from this VM. Yeah. Let me enter there. And then if you can see here, I'm able to access that particular Databricks workspace. Okay. Now what I'm going to do, I'm going to go to that Databricks workspace. Yeah. And then if you see here in this workspace, what I'm going to do is like, I'm going to go to the networking here. Yeah. So now here I'm basically telling like to make this Databricks workspace, I've mentioned like there will be no public IPs. Yeah. And if you see here, it basically tells like with secure cluster connectivity enabled, customer virtual networks have no open ports and Databricks runtime cluster nodes have no public IP address. Okay. Now, what I'm going to do is like, I'm going to make it even more stricter. Yeah. So what I'm going to do is like, I'm going to disable this one, which is basically uh, allow public network access to disabled. Yeah, which basically tells like you can connect to your Databricks workspace either publicly via public IP address or privately using a private endpoint. Okay, so in this case, I'm not going. I will no longer be able to connect using connect publicly or via the public IP address. Yeah, so it has to be using a private endpoint. So what I'll do now is like, let me save this. Yeah. And then what I'll do is like, I will once this is completed, I will go back to the VM and then try opening that, and it should basically give an error because we have disabled the public network access. That means like we will no longer be able to connect to this workspace using the internet. Yeah. So if you look at any Databricks workspace implementation on a production environment for an enterprise customer, you will basically have more stricter settings as far as the networking is concerned. Yeah. So it will mostly be your allow public network access will be disabled. Yeah. And now we will have to create the required private endpoints to get it accessed. Yeah, this is to ensure like we don't have any unauthorized people even trying to connect to this Databricks workspace. Yeah, so let's wait for it to complete, and then we will take it from there. It is still getting saved. Yeah, the network properties, and it basically tells like it's going to take at least 15 minutes. So what I'll do is like, I will pause this video, yeah, and then I will resume it back once this is saved. Okay, so it's completed now. It's saved now. So we have this public network access disabled. Yeah, so let's go back and then come back to this networking. And if you can see here, it is disabled now. Yeah, let's go to the VM again, and then let's try accessing the workspace now. And if you see here, we are basically getting an error stating like configured privacy settings disallow access for this over your current network. Please contact your administrator. So right now we are not able to access it. Okay, so now what we'll do is like, let's head back to the portal there. Yeah, and then let's look at the a VM configuration. Yeah, so let's go here. This is the VM we are connected to. Yeah, so now if I see here, we are part of this VNet and subnet. So let me go to this virtual network, yeah. And if I go to the subnet here, we have three subnets. One is private, one is public, and one is default, yeah. So now this VNet is being used by this particular Databricks, yeah. And the Databricks uses the private and public subnet, and our VM, JB ADB VM, from where we are trying to access the Databricks workspace, is in the default subnet. Okay, so what we can understand is like we have all these three in the same VNet. That is like your private, public, and default subnet. All these things are on the same VNet. Yeah. So now what I'm going to do is like I'm going to create uh, private endpoint to this particular subnet on the Azure Databricks. Yeah, and then we will see if we are able to access the URL, and that way we will ensure like the workspace is not getting access from the internet but using the private endpoint. Let's try doing it. Now let's head back to uh, the Databricks resource here. Yeah. So let's go to home and then let's go to this JBS Wiki ADB Databricks service. Okay, let's go to the networking here. We know that we have disabled this. So let's go ahead and try creating a private endpoint connection. Yeah, let's click on private endpoint connection. Yeah, so let's name the private endpoint here. I will name it as PE underscore JBS Wiki ADB browser auth. Okay, and then let's click on next. Okay, so now we have this Microsoft.Databricks workspaces selected, and the resource is this one, JBS Wiki ADB. So now I'm going to select this browser underscore authentication. Let's click on next. And we know that the virtual network that we will be using is this JBS Wiki VNet. This is where you have your, let's check that one. Let's look at the um, resource there and make sure we are right. We are going to select the right VNet. Okay, so let's click on this. And then if you see it here, JBS Wiki ADB underscore VNet. Yeah. So I'm going to select the required one, which is your JBS Wiki ADB underscore VNet. Yeah. Just to confirm it, it is JBS Wiki ADB underscore VNet. And then you have the three subnets, which is your default, private, and public. We know that the private and public subnet is exclusively used by our Databricks, and any further Databricks cluster that we are going to create, all the worker nodes, driver nodes, all those things are going to use from this private and public subnet. Yeah, so here I'm going to select the default subnet on which my VM is created. Yeah, so I will use that one. Okay, so in my case, my VM and my Databricks resources are on the same VNet. But in case if you have a different VNet where you have your VM is hosted, then what you can do is like you need to select that virtual network and then the required subnet where this particular VM is there. So it doesn't matter. In my case, just to make it simple, I'm having all those things on my same VNet. But in case if your VM is on a different VNet than your Databricks resources, then you need to create a private endpoint to that particular VNet. Yeah, that's the code here. So let's click on next. I will leave this default. Yeah, let's click on next. Then click on review create, and then I will create it. Okay, let's wait for this private endpoint to be created. We will create another private endpoint once this is completed. Okay, so it's created now. Yeah, let's go to the resource. Now let's go to the Databricks environment one more time and then go to the networking. Okay, so I see it here now. Yep, so we just created this for the browser authentication. Now, in order for the data pane and the control plane to interact, we need to create one more private endpoint. Yeah, so what we'll do is like we will create one more private endpoint that is for GBS Wiki ADB, but this one is for data and control plane. Yep, so let's click on next, and then this time I'm going to select Databricks UI API. Yeah, let's click on virtual network. We will be selecting this virtual network where we have our Databricks, and let's click on next. I will leave these things default here. Let's click on next, and then let's click on review and create this resource. Okay, let's wait for this to be created, and then we will try accessing the workspace link from our Azure VM. Yeah, yeah. Once this gets created, let's try it out. But before that, let's have a check further. Yeah. So now I am on the internet. Yeah. And now so this is like from my laptop right now. So when I click on launch workspace, you can see that I'm just trying to log in, and here even in my laptop I'm getting this error. Okay, so now any access to this particular Databricks workspace from the internet will be disabled because we have disabled the public network access altogether. Yeah, the only way is to use the private endpoint and then connect to it. So it will be within the secured network, so there is no way we will be able to access from the internet. Yeah. Let's wait for this deployment to complete, the private endpoint for the data and control plan to interact, and then we will check it further. Okay, so the deployment is completed. Yeah, let's go to our Databricks, head to the networking blade, and then see if we have the endpoint created. Let's do a refresh. Then if you can see here, it is auto approved. So we have created one for the browser authentication and another one for the interaction between the data and control plane. So now what we'll do, we will head to our um, Azure VM where we tried previously, and let's see if we are able to access the workspace from here now that we have created our private endpoints. Okay, it got refreshed and I'm able to access it. If you see here, I'm using this login, jvig2k1@yahoo.com, and it seems to be working fine. So now let's click on a new tab, then try logging in. Let's do a sign in with Microsoft Intra ID. And then if you see here, I'm able to access it. Yep. So now let's try the same thing from my laptop. Yep. So let's click on this launch workspace. If you see here, from my laptop, I'm not able to access further because this is trying to connect to the Databricks workspace from the internet and it is getting disabled. So it is pretty clear that we have completely restricted the access to your Databricks workspace from the internet, and we have made sure like the connection to this workspace can be done from a secured system. That is either you will have to create a private endpoint to the resources that needs access to this Databricks workspace. You need to create a private endpoint to those resources where you have these VMs or any other resources within that VNet. Yep. So what you basically have to do is like you basically have to create two endpoints. One endpoint is for the browser authentication to that particular VNet and the subnet where the VM is placed, and then another VNet to the same VNet and subnet. But this one is for your data and control plane to interact. Let's look at this diagram here. Yep. So if you see here, we have this control plane here, and then anyone trying to access now has to go through this VNet, and we have created a um, private endpoint to this VNet so that secure connection can happen. And from the data plane, your customer Azure environment is where you have the data plane. This data plane needs to have another private endpoint connection to this control plane. For that, we have created another private endpoint to the appropriate VNet. And once this is done, we will be able to access the Azure Databricks workspace, not from the internet, but from using your private endpoint. That's it for this video. Thanks for watching. Have a great day. Jai Hind.